Let's take a breath together. Breathing is a good thing. So Mother's Day is one of those times that we get several years of warning about in ministerial school. Because motherhood and childhood are an inseparably loaded topic. Because some folks have great mothers, and some folks have not so great mothers, and some folks have absentee mothers, and some folks have great mothers that are gone from the planet, and any infinite mix we could come up with. Here's what I want to say about all of that as I weave in Mother's Day, cause and effect, empowerment, care of the poor, all into one thing here. Regardless of how our mothers showed up, they gave us life. They gave us life. And if we can't thank them for anything else, we can thank them for that. And the specialness, I heard this, I don't even know when I heard it, but it stuck with me. You and however many siblings you have are the only people that have ever heard your mother's heartbeat from the inside of her body. Now that's pretty amazing. So regardless of what happened or happens in this human experience we share, if we can go back to those 2 points, we can heal anything. So our topic this morning is cause and effect. Our overall theme this month is caring for the poor. And we talked a little bit last week about redefining this concept of poor. That it's not just an economic experience, that there's lots of ways that we can be in poverty. And I would submit that by virtue that we are all in human form still trying to figure this out, we all have some level of conscious poverty operating, because there's still part of the infinite that we don't yet understand. So we're lacking at least a little bit of understanding, which is a form of poverty. Doesn't make it a bad thing, almost makes it a natural thing, doesn't it? So part of what we're doing this month is pairing these topics with Ernest Holmes' statement from his overall statement, What I Believe, with the specific statement, I believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. So how do we bring all this together? Well, the innermost God and the outermost God, and how we are aware of it, how we understand it, directly relates to how we use it. And how we use it directly relates to what shows up in our lives. There's one cause, and let's take a minute to clarify cause, because in our human experience, most of us hear the word cause as fault. It has nothing to do with fault in this context. It has to do with infinite source, one cause back of everything, which just simply means everything comes out of this one thing. There is no two things, there's just one. We are it, we live within it, and we use it because it was born in us. There's no way. This is the good news and the bad news, folks. There's no off switch. There's no off switch. We are constantly using creation. We are constantly directing cause. And that's the part that I know I don't hear it enough, and it's easy to forget that what we're actually doing is directing cause with our beliefs. What we believe moves into law, which is simply another aspect. It's the actor in cause. It's not separate from it. It took me a couple of years to figure out when people said the law, that they weren't talking about something that was completely different. I keep hearing about oneness, but then you talk about the mind and the law and the material, and that sounds like three things. It's just three aspects of one thing. Cause is the unformed. Law is the manufacturing plant. That's how I can wrap my mind around it. It's the activity where all of the parts necessary to bring it into physical form live. And law is purely operation. It has no opinion. It has no filter. It has no element of discernment. That's our job. It simply manufactures what we believe. And it shows up in form or effect. It's easy to get confused between form and effect. They're the same thing. Effect is experience. We have effects that are unseen. And then we have form that's tangible. It's all the same thing. It's what comes out of the activity of law. So we get to choose. What do we? See, this thing of choice can be a little bit of a slippery slope. Because if I have no idea what my options are, am I really a choice? If I've grown up with this finite little box that tells me who I am and what my possibilities are, am I really choosing? And I think that's a big part of what happens with poverty consciousness, is that we're raised on planet Earth by people that have a conscious understanding of things. And we pass that on to one another generationally. I can tell you, being one who did things differently, sometimes that's not a popular thing to do in families. I'm just saying. And my first transgression was getting an education. My mother was one of 9 children, and out of all 9 children and all of their offspring, the drill was, you get born, you get raised, you stay right there in Loudoun County, Virginia, and you find a job, and that's your life. And I went to college, and you would have thought I committed some heinous crime. It was met with a lot of pushback. It was met with a lot of opinions. It had nothing to do with me. And it had everything to do with when the paradigm shifts, when somebody steps out of their role, everybody who has followed that experiences a certain amount of threat because they don't understand it. It's not how it's supposed to happen. In the eye of the storm, if you're following along in the book, Gary Simmons, and the eye of the storm, it's the I, one letter I, not E-Y-E, it's the I of the storm, is what he's talking about. He beautifully articulates what happens in these places of cognitive dissonance, where all of a sudden we step out of our defined role, which if we are each going to be the magnificence we came here to be, to step out of your defined role. Because a defined role belongs to somebody else. If we live the definition somebody else gave us, we have consented to not live our brilliance. So by definition, this human experience has a certain amount of conflict. Okay. He describes he calls them the four winds that kind of blow through our soul. He describes them as, let me get this correct, a sense of separation, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. And all of those are really forms of conflict. And the most immediate conflict, no matter how much it looks like it's out here, it's always in here. Always. Okay. Mental conflict. In our covenant, one of the things that's in there is that disturbance, that conflict is a call to go within. Okay? Conflict is necessary. I've talked to several people this week who used to be a part of a spiritual community, and every one of them left their spiritual community because of conflict with personalities. Or at least that's the story they're telling. The truth of the matter is, anytime we leave because we are unwilling to do the work to resolve the conflict, and we're giving the personalities the power to relocate ourselves. And that's the uncomfortable truth. It's always what I'm choosing. No one has the power to make you do anything without your consent. Thank you, Eleanor Roosevelt. And it's just true. Now, it's not a comfortable truth, because it's much easier to slip into that comfortable, familiar victim consciousness place where I'm helpless. Because if I'm helpless, then I don't have to do the work to change. And then I can just blissfully dip up through life blaming you, and there it is. This is my life, and it's your fault, and I'll have to change it. And a lot of us do that. I don't know about you, but I did that for a long time and didn't know I was doing it. I didn't even know it was not healthy. I just thought that's how it was done, because that's all I'd ever experienced. And then we come here and, somebody messes with our nice little peaceful victimhood, and then we're off and running in this endless development stage. And I don't know about you, but I have to embrace it as an endless development stage where I get stuck in the, am I there yet? No. Every time I teach a class, at least one person will ask if I still have stuff I'm working on. Yes. And here's how you know. I'm here. As long as I am here in form, I still got stuff. Now, maybe you've transcended that. If you have, please come talk to me. I will pay you for that information. I will pay you well for that information. So how do we navigate this conflict? How do we surrender to the conflict? If you have jewelry on that has a polished stone, it got there through conflict. It got there being in intentional conflict with a diamond wheel that took away everything that didn't belong there. And what you're left with is a beautifully polished gem. So surrendering to the conflict, you get to move away everything that isn't the truth of you, and what's left is you as a beautifully polished you. Now, one of the things that gets in our way is imagining who that would be. Because if we can't imagine it, we won't allow ourselves to embrace it. And so part of your journey over this next week is really play in the realm of your imagination. Imagine if you surrendered to that conflict, to allow everything that's not the truth of you to be removed, who would be left? And just sit with that contemplation. Because I can tell you, I don't know what that you will look like or act like, but I know that it will be magnificent. It can't be any other way. Because what's left is the purity of who we came here to be. Absolute creation in form, living in the complete brilliance and oneness that you already are. So you don't have to make yourself something. Creation already did that. We just have to remove everything that's in the way of us seeing it. Because I won't let you see how amazing I am until I know it. Because one of the things that he talks about is this sense of safety and letting you see who I am when I'm not clear about who I am feels like terror. Because I don't have a familiarity with myself yet. And I'm operating under the illusion of separation and misperception that you can actually hurt that person. Which is why I kept him hidden for so many years. Because we get glimpses of our brilliance. We do. Sometimes in the most inopportune moments, we'll just be diddy-bopping along and all of a sudden, we just out with something that's amazing and magnificent. And we watch people's reaction, and then we recoil in concert with their recoil. Because we have gone too far. You know, it's an interesting thing in science of mind. We encourage one another to shine. We encourage one another to stand in your brilliance, but not that much. Okay. Be really brilliant. Shine your light. Don't outshine me. Don't challenge my brilliance. Because we're operating under a misperception sometimes that my limitation is my brilliance. And that's only because I haven't figured out that it's a limitation. It's just all the brilliance I've met so far. That I get comfortable there, and I just want to stay there. There's always more of you to meet. There's always more of one another to meet. This is a magnificent center, and we have just scratched the surface of our magnificence as a center. But we have to be willing to navigate the discomfort of the conflict of change to move forward. Maybe it's just me. And if I could gift you one core understanding this morning, it would be to know in the very depths of your being, it's already okay. There's no disaster to go to. Because there is no disaster in divinity. It doesn't exist. In cause and effect, we make it exist. Because, remember, law has no discernment. We believe disaster. We feel disaster. Law acts upon our concept of disaster, and lo and behold, what shows up? Disaster. And then our humanness that's operating from this defended place locks into, see, I told you so. That's called hindsight bias. We look for things to justify our limited belief. We look for evidence to justify it. The piece we miss is that we are creating the very evidence we're looking for. So it's kind of a fail-safe. If you want to be defeated, you will be. I can't stop you. That's the hard part. Because I watch so many of us in that loop of self-defeat, in that loop that says I'm not enough, in that loop that says nothing ever works out for me. And then I watch us fulfill it over and over and over. And then, because one of the joys of being a minister is I get to challenge that. And how many people dig in their heels for the right to be miserable, for the right to be a failure, for the right to be a victim. And we do it behind, you don't understand. If you lived my life, you'd drink too. Probably would. Sometimes I want to watch in your life. It doesn't make it unchangeable. But we have to stop defending. We have to get out of this competition mode. And competition looks like a lot of things. But here's the problem with competition. Unless you're wearing a uniform and there is a ball and a field involved, because there are appropriate levels of competition. But the problem with competition in spirituality, competition by definition requires a winner and a loser. And I submit to you that in spirituality, we get to all win. There is no loser. And even when we manifest our limitations, you won. You created exactly what you set out to create. See, there is no competition in spirit. It does exactly what it does as us, as we believe. In the Bible it says, if I go to heaven, if you go to heaven, I am there. If you go to hell, I am there. The divine is us. We can't go someplace where it ain't. And we cannot not use it. What we can do is refocus. We can understand that there is no God outside of us. It's around us, it's in us. That's all there is. If there's only one, there is no place outside of it to go. Right? So to get outside of infinity, science can't figure out how to do it. I certainly can't. Every time we get to the edge of the quantum field thinking we found the edge, we find more. There is no outside. The only way we find the center of anything is by measuring from the outside in. So if there are no edges, the center must be everywhere. Must be. So the very center of creation that you are is everywhere. Quit looking for it. One of the misnomers is that we're seekers. What are we seeking? We already have it. We already are it. I think we would do better if we became sculptors instead of seekers. Become Michelangelo. Remove every piece of stone that doesn't belong to reveal what's there. That's what we're about. So how the heck do we do that? One, we have to know what needs to be removed. And if we're operating from a place of helplessness, from a place of ignorance, and notice I'm using the word ignorant, not stupidity, because we're not stupid, but ignorance can be really comfortable sometimes. I don't know about you, but there are days where I would like to go back and not know things that I know. There are things I would like to unsee that I can't unsee. especially when y'all post things on Facebook. Some of the flashback pictures, like, I cannot unsee that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Dina's page. Yes, I just gave her up like a bad penny. We get to lean into this joyfully. Doesn't have to be torture. We can, I have to keep looking at myself, or I get to keep looking at myself. It's the same looking. What's our attitude? Because you don't have to. You really don't. There is not one power anywhere in the universe that's going to make you do anything. It can't. Because the minute our free will is gone, it has stopped its experience of itself. Because then it's just repeating. We get free will to expand the divine's experience of itself. You're never going to lose that free will. How do you want to use it? Do you want to use it from celebration, or do you want to use it from punishment? You get to pick. I invite you to celebrate your opportunity to get to meet a new you every single day. Every day. In fact, if you want to be incredibly radical about it, you can meet a new you every breath. You can walk around on this planet in a perpetual state of, holy wow, I'm amazing. You get to do that because you are that. But you won't feel it until you let yourself see it. I think it was Michael Beckwith that flipped off that little tongue roller that, we think we'll believe it when we see it, but we won't. When we do see what we don't see, we will see what we can't see. I'm not going to say it twice. It's hard enough to remember it once. The bottom line is when we see it, it shows up. It shows up. That is a guarantee of creation. It's a guarantee. So if you think what's showing up is in opposition to what you believe, your work isn't getting clear. Effect don't lie. It doesn't lie. Whatever is showing up in your life is a direct evidence, a direct effect of what you believe. Most of our beliefs we don't have to change. We just need to get them out of the way because they ain't true anyway. So we just let them go. Self-will works like this. We can absolutely will things into being. We can. The problem is, the minute we stop willing it, it stops. That's the difference. If you're having to put a tremendous amount of effort and concentration and focus and physical interaction, that's willpower. Because as soon as you let go, it's done. Actual manifestation, actual demonstration, it continues. We believe it, we see it, we know it, we experience it. It continues while we know and believe and experience and move on to something else. Those things, the things that we hold in truth, the things that are truly operating at the level of our belief, are effortless and permanent. Now, by effortless, I do not mean you get to sit home on your couch, they're going to come knock on my door and give me a job. That's not what I mean by effortless. I mean, you don't have to work at it. You don't have to struggle. We do the work. As Ernest said, treat, move your feet. You still have to move your feet. But it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be grueling. It doesn't have to be painful. If there are things in your relationship, I relate this back to mothers, and you're still struggling with things that aren't still happening, that's the work. And you don't have to work that hard. You can relax into it. You can simply remember that your mother gave you life. If she did everything wrong after that, so what? So what? It ain't still happening. It's not happening today. If you, as a parent, gave someone life and you totally botched it after that, so what? So what? You're not still doing it. We have to let go to move forward. Doesn't mean the past didn't happen. It just means we move out of the condo we built there and move to a new neighborhood. Let's take this into prayer. As I breathe, I recognize it is the breath of the one breathing in the infinite, the ever-present source, the absolute cause that is creative and that in fact creates all. That in fact created me. It created each of us. I recognize that it is operating in, through, and as my life, in the life of all. That singular cause is the very thing that unites each of us, that makes us truly inseparable in this one body. And so in this truth, in this unity, in this wholeness, I speak my word, claiming and affirming that the very essence of creation itself, that the very brilliance, abundance, joy, love, peace, power, presence, intelligence of absolute cause lives, moves, and has its being in every form and effect of its creation. And so I speak my word, claiming and affirming that we each dive gently with complete abandon into that pool of brilliance, removing anything unlike the truth of who we are and allowing our brilliance to shine, knowing that it is quite impossible to outshine the divine. So there's no competition to be had. There's room for all. And so we recognize and we honor ourselves and one another. We invite our own brilliance and we invite the brilliance of each and every one of us. We meet each other right where we are and simply be there while each individualizes their path, knowing that we move together because oneness has only one movement. I speak a word of gratitude for knowing how creation works, for knowing I am responsible, for feeling that word as one that washes over me with tremendous joy. Grateful for the capacity and the knowledge to stand in the power of choice. Grateful for how it shows up day after day after day. And grateful to know that that same power exists in everyone within the sound of my voice. And that each of us, as we embrace it, move more fully into it. I see a world where the divine shines and outshines anything unlike it. That any speck of darkness is dispelled by the light of creation itself, as each and every one of us, and as us as a collective. And feeling this gratitude well up inside of me, I am moved to release, because the gratitude reminds me it's done, and can only be done in completeness. So I let go, I let it be, and I move forward with my eyes, ears, and heart wide open to see the evidence of creation manifesting the brilliance of itself. And I invite you, if this is your prayer too, to join me as we say together, and so it is.